Hey, how you doing? Thanks everybody that sent in their letters and their little essays for the contest that I announced here on YouTube a couple weeks ago how I was going to clean this off. Well, you can see I'm clean down here, but you can't tell. There's still all kinds of chotch everywhere, and that's because I'm the queen of chotch. I got a lot of chotch. And I was able to pack a pretty decent sized box. I think, I don't know, it must have been around 8 pounds anyway, maybe 10. And someone did win, and her name was Cynthia Wayne Scott. And she's a young mother who came 4 years ago to the United States from Peru. And she was an interior designer there. And her journey was that she just really longed for something artistic and decided to make jewelry. She's very talented. But I want you to know, she didn't win this contest because she was talented. Your letters were great. I learned so much from your letters about how you felt and how many of you were working hard to overcome fear in your art and how it was a refuge and a release for you and what it felt when you first felt that you could call yourself an artist. Honestly, you can all call yourself artists. Anybody who makes something with the work of their hands is an artist. Just great stuff. You all touched my hearts. But the main thing is I needed somebody who would be able to post their pictures at Facebook or at least a Flickr account, and someone that gave me the impression that they were going to be able to work along with me and get in there and use the product. Because remember, I told you you were going to have a responsibility with it. So I guess in a way they were like job applications. But anyway, of the ones who I felt would be able to work with me, I just kind of threw them in the air because they were all so good. And the one that fell first, basically, was the one that got it, and it was Cynthia. So I'm telling you a little bit about her, but she's going to have a ton of responsibility because the stuff in that box is disjointed, used, disparate, unrelated, weird, funky, you name it. And she's going to have to make jewelry out of that and use her mind and her brains and show us what she's doing at the Facebook fan page. So I hope you'll tune in. And as you can see, there's plenty of mess down here. We'll do it again. So don't ever give up. You know, whenever I say I have one of those little contests, I hope you will jump in with us. This week, though, I want to talk some more about patina, and I want to talk to you about our Silverware silver-plated finish. Now, I think I told you I told you a couple of weeks ago about how this finish is a Cadillac high-end designer finish. It is. There is no better silver finish over brass than this. It is 99.9% pure silver, thick, over the brass stampings. And you can really see the difference when you feel over them as compared to a lesser expensive silver-plated finding. You can feel the thickness. This stuff, our Silverware Silverplate, blends with sterling, especially antique sterling. It responds to the liver of sulfur. With a little bit of fussing around, you can iridize it. It's really remarkable stuff. And the plater who produces this finish for me tells me that it's so durable. 90% of the time, if you manipulate it, it's not going to crack. I had such a problem with the Silver Ox finish I had before. Anytime you would try to bend filigree, it would pop and crack and peel. It's a rare thing that this finish does that. I won't say it never does because, you know, with filigree, it's iffy that way. You know, ox finishes don't tend to do it so much. The silver might. Not likely if you're very, very careful. It works out. The finish doesn't change. It stays the way it is. They told me that they have stuff in a box there that's 25 years old with this finish on it, and it looks like they plated it yesterday. So it's beautiful, beautiful stuff, worth every dime. If you look at the site, you'll see that it does cost about twice what our brass ox costs. It's the same brass underneath, but it's this finish that makes the difference. If you like silver and you want a quality silver finish and you can't afford to spend for sterling, because believe me, these big pieces in sterling, they'd be over $100 easy, probably wholesale. And when you consider that you're getting them for between $5 and $10, and they look like the real thing, they look like precious metal, and they behave like precious metal, it's a no-brainer. And we have it if that's what you want. Okay, so I'm going to have Rob step over here, and I want to show you a couple of pieces close up just to show you how wonderful they are. I know I'm doing a sell job, but you guys need to understand why it costs so much more. It's totally, totally worth it. So let me show you, okay? Come on over. Here are a few pieces that are favorites in our Silverware silver plated finish. This is the big compact top filigree. Can you see how lovely this is? It looks like sterling. It's so thick. When you feel over it, it's just so finished and slick. This is 99.9% pure silver over the brass. Here's our Uki. We sell so many of him. And yeah, he's $5.95 now. And to be honest with you guys, I think it's a bargain, because these things get plated by weight. And when I realized a few weeks ago how much the plating was costing because of the weight, I knew I was remiss. I couldn't afford to sell them to you anymore. I would have had to take them off the site. So I did put him up to $5.95. He's worth every dime, because even though it's a brass base, he looks like sterling. And he's got the nice antiquing in it. Same way with this watch pendant. How beautifully this is done. This beautiful filigree, centerpiece filigree. It's just beautifully, beautifully done. And the pretzel snakes. I know my friend Lauren over there in Hawaii, she really loves this. And she said, I don't care if you have to raise the price, because I understand the value of it and I can educate my customers. So that's why I'm telling you, this piece is so heavy that if you bought this in sterling, it'd probably be $150 right now with the cost of silver and the artistry to make it. It's just not your regular brass stamping. So I want to reiterate again, these are designer finishes. Now, the thing is, these finishes are also versatile, just like raw brass. There are really cool things you can do to these finishes to get even more of a designer individualized look. So Rob and I are going to go over to the other countertop. I'm going to show you a little bit about liver of sulfur and how it works, and also white base and patina base, Gilder's paste over silverware finish. So anyway, as you can see, I've prepared some liver of sulfur. In fact, I've been using it, and this water needs to be thrown out. This is the prepared liver of sulfur. When you buy liver of sulfur from us or wherever you get it, like it says, a common oxidizing agent for brass, copper, and silver. It's a very, very, of all the noxious chemicals you can use in your workshop, this is one of the lesser ones. It is noxious. It's not non-toxic. Is not non-toxic. See, harmful or fatal if swallowed. Okay, so please don't eat it. Not that you would. We carry it like this, and we carry it like this in this liquefied version. I actually used both in this, and you start out with hot, not boiling water in a glass bowl. And I like to put it on one of these little cheap $5 cup warmers that you get at the dollar store, because that keeps the solution warm. You've got to keep the solution warm. This is what it looks like. Ugly little nuggets. In this solution, I took a couple of these big chunks, and then I took probably a good tablespoon and a half of this stuff. Now, listen, I am not the world's biggest genius on the use of liver of sulfur. Many people may have better recipes. If you want to write and share them with me, I'm all ears. I'd love to hear what you say. However, I've found some things that work. So if you're new to it, you can start out like this and then just fool around with it. It's a lot of fun. So we sell both that kinds, this kind and this kind. This you could probably even like paint onto a raw brass stamping and then torch it if you're careful. I don't know. Someone might say, no, 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 no. But I have successfully. Be careful and degrease your brass first. You always want to do that. So you will, if you have raw brass like this was, you will heat it with an embossing gun that we have. We have the Doris embossing gun. You will heat it first. If it's just raw brass, you must heat it before you throw it in the liver of sulfur, because it'll take half an hour, 40 minutes to turn otherwise. Brass is slow. Silver and copper and liver sulfur will turn quick. Real quick. Brass takes longer, but it will get this beautiful, mellow, toasty color just like this did. You could buff it out with a sunshine rag and then seal it with Ren wax, and you're good to go, you know. Or put some color on it if you want. Now this one came out interesting. This one is almost like that black gunmetal matte that buffed back. And I think what happened when I did this is I had this solution was really fresh, because this solution will kind of wear out as time goes along. The more you use it, the more stuff you throw down in there, then it gets darker and darker. So anyway, that's what happens with that. So I threw this down in there and it got like super dark, which makes me think now, where's my other luggage tag? Is it in there? I'm not feeling it. Rob, you want to shut that off for a second? Okay, we found it. This was this. This is the Silverware Silverplate thrown in liver of sulfur. So you can see it's gone, almost pewter rocks. Now, I left this in there for 5 minutes, maybe 10. You really wouldn't have to leave it in that long. I'm going to buff it back a little bit to matte and show you. If you would have this really, really fresh solution and nice and warm, there's a really good chance when you throw this down in there that it would iridize. But this is almost gone, like a deep pewter ox to pale gunmetal. It started out like this, our silverware finish, straight from the plater, started out like this. As you can see, I'm buffing it back to this lustrous look, getting everything out of it. It came out nice and even, but that's how it responds. So you can take our silverware finish and you can patina it, just like it was sterling. Sterling would come out kind of like that, maybe a little blacker. But there's just so many things you could do. But this one I really want to experiment with. I love that blackening and then cut back to the coppery brass. That is too cool for words. So I'm looking for that recipe for sure. But for now, this is what happens with your silverware. Starts out like this, which this is one of my favorite pieces. This makes the most awesome pendant, and it's nicely weighted. It looks just like an old silver Victorian luggage tag. In fact, that's what the die is made from, an old luggage tag. But anyway, so here you go. You can see the difference, how it's darkened in that. Okay, so that's how you do silverware in liver of sulfur. One tip I need to tell you too, when you dispose of this, you don't throw it down your drain. You get an old plastic jug and put it in there. You could throw this water out down the drain, but this has got to go in a jug and be disposed of properly. So you might want to call your garbage man or whatever and ask him how he would like you to handle that, or if there's a disposal place you can take it to. You do not throw this down your drains. It's a pollutant. Okay, now, if you would like to take your silverware finish and whitewash it, you can get this awesome look with Gilder's paste. I used white Gilder's paste, which I watered down a little bit with paint thinner, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. And then I let it sit for a minute, wiped it back, and then I went over it with patina for this beautiful, beautiful whitewashed effect. I did that on this piece too. So that's another way you can go. So we're going to do one together so that I can show you how I did it. Okay, so first I'm going to start out with my white Gilder's paste. And I've got my brush here and just a little bit of paint thinner. Remember I told you when you do Gilders to keep a little bit of paint thinner around? Okay, so now I'm going to kind of water this down a little bit. Makes a nicer paint, nicer application for this sort of thing. Kind of get it creamy, like I'm doing here. I think Rob's getting a good picture to show you. So you kind of load your brush. Okay, now I'm going to go over it. And really, it's something you play with and see. Maybe you'd prefer to leave the whitening very strong around the edges and not cut it back as much as I did. Now, if you go over this flat surface, see what's going to happen? It's just yucky. You got to go where there's texture. It's not that great over a surface that's shiny and flat. But I'm going to wipe this back a little bit, just for time's sake. You can see this is the beginning of something really awesome. A really cool, making it your own type look. I love the whitewash look over silver. Okay, so now I'm going to clean that out of my brush somewhat. Although for time's sake I may not get it all out. Wipe that off. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, now I'm going to go and get a little of my patina Gilders and do the same thing. Make it nice and creamy. And of course it's resisting me when you know it. A little bit, but it's coming. Okay, it's coming. Alright, and now I'll just go around the edges, maybe get on the flower a little bit, around here, get on that beading on the flower edge, and, you know, just however it appeals to you, whatever you think looks really good. And then I would probably let that set instead of buffing it right out, and then go back over it. Or you could take another brush if you wanted to cut some of it back immediately. Kind of a stiff brush. Take a little bit of it back. But you can always buff some of that out later. And now you've got a really pretty finish. So you see how that goes? I wish I could spend more time with you today and show you a little bit more how this works, but basically this is just a primary overview to tell you how wonderful this silverware product is, how it's so exceptional, it's worth every dime, and how versatile it is. I'd like to try this with a little bit of whitening on it and see. I don't know, maybe I will just a little bit. Rob says we're about out of time though, but just maybe we'll just go and see. Now look at that. That could be kind of cool. Well, I have to show you on my blog later how that worked out, but anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope I've given you some ideas. And remember, read the safety information on the liver of sulfur. Be careful with it. It is a form of a chemical compound, and dispose of it properly. And let me know how it goes for you, okay? And we'll get together again soon.